The scream ripped through the still apartment, sharp and raw, making Emily clutch her son tighter as if the world might shatter. Her breath came uneven, heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. Daniel's face twisted with rage, veins visible as he spat words she barely comprehended. "You'll regret this, Emily." He slammed the door, the sound like thunder rolling through her bones, leaving silence that felt heavier than noise. Sirens wailed faintly outside, a reminder of chaos beyond these walls. Emily whispered to Noah, "It's okay, baby. I've got you." But inside, fear surged like a wave, crashing against her resolve. Memories of broken promises and lonely nights bled into this moment. She stared at the door, torn between anger and despair, the room spinning under the weight of betrayal. Noah whimpered, and Emily kissed his forehead, grounding herself in the warmth of his fragile trust. She knew the world had just shifted. Nothing would ever be the same. The apartment's shadows pressed closer, suffocating, yet a spark of defiance flickered within her. No matter how broken she felt, she whispered again, stronger this time, "We'll survive." Emily sat on the couch, silence pressing in, Noah curled against her. The ticking clock mocked her as minutes dragged by. Her thoughts raced like a storm, every heartbeat echoing Daniel's cruel words. She whispered, "You're safe, Noah," though her voice trembled. She remembered the long nights working double shifts, rushing home to tuck Noah in, never letting him feel her exhaustion. Betrayal clawed at her, not just from Daniel, but from the life she thought she'd built. Noah lifted his head, asking softly, "Mom, are we okay?" Emily smiled faintly, tears brimming but unfallen, and said, "We will be." The promise felt fragile, but it was all she had. The apartment walls, once home, now felt like a cage. Shadows lengthened across peeling wallpaper, and she felt trapped by choices past and fears future. Yet, Noah's warmth against her body anchored her. She closed her eyes, whispering silently, "I won't let him break us." Morning light broke through the blinds, harsh and unkind. Emily forced herself to rise, exhaustion heavy in her limbs. Noah stirred, blinking up at her with innocent eyes, unaware of the storm brewing around them. She whispered, "We need to stay strong today." In the kitchen, the fridge hummed louder than usual, its emptiness screaming louder than words. Emily made Noah a simple breakfast, her hands trembling as she buttered stale bread. She smiled at him anyway, refusing to let him see her despair. "Mom, can I draw today?" Noah asked, his voice bright. Emily nodded, forcing cheer. "Of course, sweetheart." She thought of bills stacked on the counter, of her job at risk, of Daniel's threats hanging like a noose. Every small moment felt like both victory and defeat. She tucked Noah's hair back and kissed his cheek. Inside, she whispered, "I won't fail you." Later that day, Emily walked Noah to school. The streets were alive with morning bustle, but she felt isolated in her own battle. Noah's small hand clutched hers tightly, his trust both a burden and a gift. She smiled down at him, masking her storm. He asked, "Mom, will you be here when school ends?" Her heart squeezed, but she replied, "Always." She kissed his forehead at the school gate, watching him disappear into the crowd of children, his laughter echoing faintly. As she turned away, her smile faded. The courthouse loomed in her thoughts, Daniel's threats circling like vultures. She adjusted her coat, straightened her shoulders, and whispered to herself, "You have to keep fighting." The city moved around her, indifferent to her struggle, but every step she took felt like a declaration of survival. Alone again, Emily returned to the apartment. The silence pressed harder than before, broken only by the hum of traffic outside. She dropped her coat on the chair, staring at the stack of bills on the counter. Fear twisted in her gut, but she steadied her breath. She whispered aloud, "One step at a time." Her mind replayed Daniel's words, each one like a blade, but she refused to let them cut deeper. She looked at Noah's drawings on the fridge, colorful scribbles that reminded her of innocence worth protecting. Her phone buzzed with an unknown number, and dread flooded her veins. She didn't answer. Instead, she pressed her hand against the fridge, whispering, We'll make it through this. Alone in the dim apartment, her resolve hardened. For Noah, she would fight every battle, no matter how impossible. Emily sat at her desk in the small office, fluorescent lights buzzing above, casting a harsh glow on the stack of reports in front of her. She typed furiously, fingers aching, trying to finish before her shift ended. Her boss, Mr. Carter, had already hinted her position was at risk. She whispered, "Not now, please. Not when Noah needs me most." Every keystroke felt like defiance, a battle against failure. The room smelled of burnt coffee and stale air, and every second stretched into hours. Emily thought of Noah's smile that morning, and her chest tightened with both love and fear. She knew the world wasn't kind to women like her, carrying the weight of survival on one shoulder and motherhood on the other. As she blinked back tears, she whispered, "I won't let him down." Her hands trembled, but she kept typing, clinging to the fragile thread of hope this job represented. The lunch break passed in silence as Emily sat outside the building, wrapped in her coat against the crisp air. The city moved around her, people rushing, laughing, living lives that felt far from hers. She held her phone, staring at the unpaid bill notification. Her hands trembled, and she whispered, "Just one more month, I'll make it." She remembered double shifts, nights of exhaustion, and mornings when Noah asked why she looked so tired. She forced a smile then, and she forced one now, even though no one was watching. A co-worker passed by, offering a polite nod, but Emily didn't return it. She couldn't risk her mask cracking. Instead, she closed her eyes and inhaled the cold air, as though it could freeze her fear. When she opened them, she stared at the gray sky, whispering to herself, "Keep moving forward." That night, the apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the radiator. Emily sat with Noah at the small kitchen table, the flickering light above them casting uneven shadows. Noah drew with colored pencils, his little tongue sticking out in concentration. "Look, Mom," he said, showing her a picture of them holding hands under a bright sun. Emily smiled, though her eyes glistened with unshed tears. "It's beautiful, Noah," she whispered, kissing his head. Inside, her chest ached, knowing the world outside wasn't as kind as his drawings. Bills lay in a pile nearby, their numbers heavy with threat, but for this moment, she let herself breathe. She wanted him to believe in sunshine, even if her own sky was filled with storms. Emily's phone buzzed again, this time a message from Daniel. His words stabbed sharper than knives. "You'll never win. I'll take him from you." Her breath caught, hands shaking as she read. She gripped the phone, knuckles white, whispering, "No, you won't." Rage and fear twisted together, a storm inside her chest. Noah's laughter from the other room pulled her back, and she forced herself to steady her breathing. She couldn't let him see her break. She put the phone face down on the table, pressing her palms flat against its surface, as if trying to bury the threat beneath her hands. She whispered again, firmer this time, "I will fight you, Daniel." Her reflection in the darkened window looked tired, but the fire in her eyes was undeniable. Later, Emily sat on her bed, the room bathed in faint moonlight. She stared at the ceiling, every muscle tense, exhaustion dragging at her bones. The shadows felt alive, whispering doubts and fears. She thought of the sacrifices, every night spent working instead of sleeping, every smile forced through pain, every dream set aside for survival. Her mind replayed Daniel's threats, her boss's warnings, and the pile of unpaid bills. Yet beneath the crushing weight, she clung to one truth. Noah was worth every scar. She whispered to herself, "He's my reason, my everything." She closed her eyes, tears sliding silently down her cheeks, and held on to the faint rhythm of Noah's breathing from the next room. It was the only sound strong enough to steady her breaking heart. The call came late afternoon. Emily's boss, asking her into the office. She walked in, clutching her coat like armor. Mr. Carter's eyes were cold, his voice clipped, "Your position may be cut." The words pierced deeper than she expected. She tried to explain her dedication, the endless nights spent working harder than anyone else, but his expression never softened. "Budget cuts," he said, as if the word erased her sacrifice. Her chest tightened, the weight of Noah's future pressing down. She nodded, whispering, "I understand," though inside she was breaking. As she walked out, her hands trembled and tears threatened to spill. She thought of Noah's drawings at home, bright suns and smiling faces, and the contrast made her ache. She whispered to herself, "You can't lose this." Yet in her heart, she feared she already had. That evening, Emily sat across from her best friend Sarah at a cafe, the hum of chatter around them failing to warm the cold truth she felt inside. Sarah leaned forward, concern etched across her face. "You need help, Emily. You can't carry this alone." Emily shook her head, whispering, "I can't trust anyone anymore." Her voice cracked, the weight of betrayal heavy on her tongue. Sarah reached out, squeezing her hand, but Emily pulled away, fear gnawing at her. The betrayal wasn't just from Daniel. A trusted co-worker had leaked personal details to him, details that made her vulnerable in court. Emily whispered, "Even the people I thought I could trust." Her voice faded as tears burned her eyes. Sarah's voice was steady. "You're stronger than you think." Emily nodded, but inside she wondered if strength was enough to survive. At home, the walls seemed to close in. Emily sat at the table, Noah coloring quietly beside her. The stack of bills loomed larger, final notices screaming in red letters. Her hands shook as she opened another envelope, the threat of disconnection looming over them. Noah looked up, asking softly, "Mom, why do you look so sad?" She forced a smile, brushing his hair back, whispering, "I'm just tired, sweetheart." Inside, her chest burned with guilt. She wanted to give him everything, but fear of losing everything hung heavy. Noah returned to his drawing, humming softly, while Emily buried her face in her hands. Tears slipped through her fingers as she whispered, "I can't let him see me break." Her reflection in the darkened window showed a woman fraying at the edges, yet still clinging to strength for her son. The courtroom loomed in her mind like a storm as she sat across from her lawyer the next morning. Papers filled the table, custody documents, evidence files, and notes scribbled in haste. The lawyer's voice was calm but sharp. "Daniel is playing dirty. He's using everything he can." Emily's jaw tightened, her hand clenching around a pen. "I won't let him take Noah," she whispered, fire in her voice despite the tremor. The lawyer nodded, adjusting glasses. "Then you need to prepare for war." Emily's stomach churned at the thought of testifying, of facing Daniel's venom again. She took a deep breath, whispering silently, "For Noah." She signed another document, the scratch of pen against paper feeling like both a shield and a wound. Late that night, Emily stood by the window, city lights glowing faintly beyond. The hum of traffic was distant, but her heart beat loud. She pressed her forehead to the glass, whispering, "I can't lose him." Her body shook, but her eyes burned with fierce determination. Memories of Daniel's threats circled in her mind, each one a wound she couldn't heal. Yet, beneath it all, she clung to Noah's laughter, his trust, his small arms wrapping around her every night. That was her anchor. That was her reason. She closed her eyes, breathing slowly, imagining a life where he was safe, where she was free. The shadows whispered doubt, but her soul whispered back louder, "I will fight." Emily sat in the kitchen, the silence broken by the creak of the floorboards. She turned quickly, heart racing. A knock echoed on the door, sharp and uncertain. She hesitated, whispering, "Who could it be?" Opening the door, her breath caught. Before her stood Claire, her estranged sister, someone she hadn't seen in years. Claire's eyes mirrored both guilt and longing as she whispered, "Emily, I had to come." The words trembled between them like fragile glass. Emily's heart twisted, anger and relief colliding in one breath. She whispered, "Why now?" Claire's gaze fell, her voice low, "Because you can't do this alone." The shadows of old wounds flickered between them, but beneath it lay something stronger, a chance for connection. Emily's chest tightened, torn between shutting the door or letting the past step inside. The sisters sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the weight of silence pressing harder than words. Emily's eyes narrowed, her voice sharp, "You left when I needed you most." Claire's hands shook as she replied, I was broken too, Emily. I didn't know how to face you. Emily's anger cracked under the weight of her sister's vulnerability, but the wound was still raw. Noah peeked in from the doorway, curiosity lighting his young face. Emily quickly smiled at him, hiding the storm, whispering, Go draw, sweetheart. Claire watched the boy disappear and whispered, He's beautiful. Emily's jaw tightened. He's all I have. For the first time in years, Claire reached across the table, her hand hovering just above Emily's. Let me help you, she whispered. Emily didn't move, her heart torn open. Later that night, Emily stood by the window, Claire at her side. The city lights shimmered faintly beyond the glass, silent witnesses to old pain. Emily whispered, Why did you really come back? Claire's voice cracked. Because Daniel contacted me. He wanted me on his side. But I couldn't let him destroy you. Emily turned sharply, betrayal flaring. He reached you? Claire nodded, eyes wet. I told him no. But you need to know, he's willing to do anything. Emily's hands clenched at her sides, her pulse racing with fury and dread. For a moment, silence stretched long. Then Emily whispered, If you're here, you better mean it. Because I can't survive another betrayal. Claire's eyes burned with determination. I won't leave again. For the first time, hope flickered through Emily's exhaustion. The next morning, Emily and Claire sat on the couch, a pile of old family photographs spread between them. Emily traced a photo of their parents, eyes soft with buried memories. Claire whispered, I kept these all these years. Emily's throat tightened, the memories colliding with the present. She whispered, We lost so much. Claire's eyes filled with regret. But maybe we can still save something. Noah ran into the room, holding his drawing proudly. Look, I drew all of us, he said with a grin. Emily looked at the paper, the three figures hand in hand beneath a bright sun. Her heart broke and healed in the same beat. She whispered, Maybe. Claire smiled faintly, the edges of hope returning to her face. The moment felt fragile, but it was a beginning. That night, Emily lay awake, staring at the ceiling, Claire asleep on the couch nearby. Her thoughts twisted like threads unraveling. Trusting her sister again felt like opening an old wound, but Claire's words haunted her. I won't leave again. Emily whispered into the silence, Please mean it. She thought of the battles ahead, the custody fight, Daniel's manipulations, the weight of bills, and the bruises of sacrifice. Yet for the first time in years, she didn't feel entirely alone. Noah stirred in the next room, and Emily's eyes softened at the sound of his breathing. She whispered, We'll make it, Noah, somehow. Her chest ached, but her heart beat with a flicker of hope, fragile but undeniable. In the darkness, she clung to it, as if it were the only light left. Emily sat across from her lawyer again, Claire by her side this time. The lawyer's tone was stern. Daniel has filed new claims. He's questioning your stability. Emily's stomach dropped, rage curling in her chest. She whispered, He'll twist anything to break me. Claire reached for her hand, steadying her trembling fingers, whispering, You're not alone this time. Emily inhaled deeply, forcing herself upright. Her voice grew firmer. Then we fight harder. The lawyer nodded, laying out strategies, but his eyes carried a warning. Every word weighed heavy, each detail another reminder that Daniel's cruelty had no limits. Emily's mind flickered to Noah, his innocent face unaware of the battlefield his future rested upon. She clenched her jaw, whispering, I won't let him win. The fear still pressed, but the fire in her chest burned brighter. Later that day, Emily walked out of the courthouse steps with Claire beside her. Reporters gathered, their cameras flashing, voices calling questions. The chaos was dizzying. Emily held her head high, whispering to Claire, I can't show weakness. Claire nodded firmly. Then don't. One reporter shouted Daniel's name, his accusations echoing in the crowd. Emily's chest tightened, but she refused to stop walking. Each step felt like a statement of defiance, each breath a battle won. She clutched the strap of her bag tighter, Noah's picture tucked safely inside. For a moment, she saw Daniel across the street, smirking, feeding words to the press. Rage boiled in her veins, but she whispered, "You won't break me." Claire squeezed her arm gently, a silent anchor. Together they pushed through the noise, determined to face the storm head-on. That evening, Emily returned home to Noah, his small arms wrapping around her waist the moment she stepped inside. "I missed you, Mom," he said softly. She kissed his head, whispering, "I missed you too." The day's weight melted for a brief moment in his embrace. He held up a drawing of a shield, smiling proudly. "This is for you. You're the hero." Tears pricked Emily's eyes, her heart tightening with both pride and sorrow. "You're my reason, Noah," she whispered, hugging him tighter. Claire watched from the doorway, her expression softening, silently reminded of the family she had nearly lost. Emily tucked Noah into bed later, smoothing his hair as he drifted to sleep. She whispered into the darkness, "I'll protect you no matter the cost." The words were both a vow and a battle cry. The next day, Emily sat across from Daniel in mediation. The air was thick, the table between them feeling more like a battlefield. Daniel's smirk was cruel as he muttered, "You'll never be enough for him." Emily's fists clenched beneath the table, but she forced her voice steady. "Noah deserves better than your games." The mediator raised a hand, urging calm, but the venom lingered in Daniel's gaze. Emily locked eyes with him, refusing to flinch. Her pulse raced, her heart pounding, but she whispered in her mind, "Stay strong." Claire's presence beside her was a shield, her steady gaze reminding Emily she wasn't alone anymore. Daniel leaned back, smug, but Emily leaned forward, her voice cold. "You can't break me." For the first time, Daniel's smirk faltered. A spark of victory flickered in her chest. That night, Emily sat on the balcony, the cool air brushing against her face. The city stretched beneath her, glowing with indifference. She whispered, "One day at a time." Claire stepped outside, handing her a cup of tea, whispering, "You're stronger than you know." Emily's eyes softened. "I'm terrified, but I can't stop." Claire smiled faintly. "That's what makes you unstoppable." Emily looked out at the skyline, thinking of Noah asleep inside, his drawings scattered across the fridge like tiny shields of hope. For the first time, the weight on her chest eased, replaced by a fragile strength. She whispered, "We'll survive this. We have to." The night was still, the silence heavy, but Emily no longer felt crushed beneath it. She felt the fire burning, faint but unyielding, ready for the battles still to come. The courtroom was heavy with silence as Emily entered, her heart pounding like a drum. She glanced at Noah seated with Claire, his innocent eyes giving her courage. Daniel sat across the room, smirking, his lawyer whispering beside him. Emily's lawyer leaned close, whispering, "Stay calm. Speak your truth." Her stomach twisted, but she straightened her shoulders, whispering back, "I have to." The judge entered, his gavel striking, commanding silence. Emily's chest tightened as Daniel's lies were presented, each word stabbing deep. She gripped the table, knuckles pale, whispering to herself, "This is for Noah." For a fleeting moment, she caught Noah's gaze, his small smile breaking through the storm. It was all she needed to breathe. Daniel's lawyer spoke first, his voice slick and calculated, painting Emily as unstable, overworked, unfit. Each word felt like poison dripping into the room. Emily's throat tightened, but she refused to flinch. Her lawyer rose, countering with evidence of her dedication, her sleepless nights, her sacrifices. Photos of Noah's care, reports of her work, her history of resilience filled the courtroom air. Daniel scowled, shifting in his seat. Emily inhaled slowly, whispering, "Truth is stronger than lies." Her lawyer glanced at her, nodding slightly, the weight of his defense giving her strength. The judge's eyes flickered with measured thought, and for the first time, Emily felt a crack in Daniel's facade. When Emily took the stand, her breath caught. The lawyer's questions came, gentle but firm. "Why should custody remain with you?" Her voice trembled, then steadied as she spoke of Noah. His laughter, his dreams, the nights she worked to keep food on their table. The mornings she walked him to school with a smile. Tears burned her eyes, but she held them back. He is my heart, my reason. Everything I do is for him. The courtroom was silent. Even Daniel's smirk faded, if only for a moment. Emily's chest rose and fell, her voice clear as she finished. I will fight every day to give him the life he deserves. Daniel rose to testify, his voice dripping with false charm. He painted himself as the victim, twisting stories, pretending care. Emily clenched her fists, fury burning as his lies filled the air. But then, Claire was called. She stepped forward, voice steady, recounting Daniel's manipulations and cruelty, his threats, his attempts to use her against Emily. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Daniel's mask cracked, his composure faltering under her words. Emily's chest swelled with gratitude, whispering, "Thank you," under her breath. For the first time, Daniel looked unsettled, his eyes darting nervously. Emily sat taller, the scales shifting in her favor. The climax came as the judge called for closing statements. Emily's lawyer spoke with fire, weaving truth and sacrifice into every word. Daniel's lawyer sputtered, his confidence waning. Finally, silence fell as the judge's gavel struck. Emily's chest tightened, Noah's face flashing in her mind. The judge's words echoed through the chamber, measured and final. Custody is granted to Emily. Tears welled as her body shook, relief flooding every bone. She looked at Noah, who smiled wide, clapping his little hands. Claire gripped her shoulder, whispering, "You did it." Emily whispered back, voice breaking, "We did it." The storm had not left her unscarred, but in that moment, victory was theirs. Emily walked out of the courthouse with Claire and Noah at her side. The cold air hit her face, but this time it didn't sting. It felt like release. She bent down, pulling Noah close. "We did it, sweetheart," she whispered. His smile was pure sunshine, his little arms wrapping around her neck. Claire placed a hand on Emily's back, whispering, "You're free now." Emily nodded, though her eyes brimmed with tears. The weight of the fight still clung to her bones, but victory tasted real, sharp and fragile. Around them, the city carried on, unaware of the battle just won. Emily stood tall, whispering silently, "This isn't just freedom. This is a new beginning." That evening, Emily sat on the couch, Noah leaning against her as cartoons flickered on the old TV. The room was quiet, peaceful in a way it hadn't been for months. Noah whispered, "Mom, are we safe now?" Emily kissed his hair, whispering back, "Yes, baby, we're safe." Her voice cracked, but the truth in it was undeniable. She felt the scars of the fight in every corner of her body, but they no longer defined her. Claire came in with cups of tea, handing one to Emily with a tired smile. For the first time, the silence in the apartment wasn't suffocating. It was healing. Emily whispered to herself, "We survived." Later, Emily tucked Noah into bed, smoothing the blanket over him. His eyes were heavy with sleep, but his small voice whispered, "You're the strongest mom in the world." Tears filled Emily's eyes as she kissed his forehead. "I'm strong because of you," she whispered. She sat on the edge of the bed, listening to his breathing steady as he drifted into dreams. She thought of the endless nights, the courtroom battles, the betrayals endured. Every scar burned, but they had led to this moment. Emily whispered silently, "This is what victory feels like. Not the courtroom, not the gavel. This." When the apartment grew quiet, Emily sat at the kitchen table, staring at Noah's drawings covering the fridge. Shields, suns, smiling stick figures, all symbols of hope. She whispered, "You saved me too, Noah." Her reflection in the window showed a tired woman, but behind the fatigue burned resilience. Claire walked in, whispering, "You're not alone anymore." Emily turned, giving a faint but real smile. "I know," she said softly. The air no longer pressed down with suffocating weight. For the first time, the walls felt like home again. The final night closed with Emily standing at Noah's door, her hand resting lightly against the wood. The sound of his steady breathing reached her, a lullaby stronger than any song. She whispered, "We're stronger now, and we'll never stop fighting. Her lips curved into a smile. Real, unforced, and free. She walked into the quiet kitchen, looking out at the city lights beyond. The world still carried uncertainty, but for the first time she wasn't afraid. She sat down, exhaling deeply, whispering to herself, "Tomorrow begins here." In that stillness, she felt peace, the kind she had been chasing for years.